Hello, everyone. This is Nathaniel Simon, and on camera is my grandmother, Barbara Nebeling, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her life. You grew up in New York, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about how you how it was like growing up
Well, first I want to say that I think my whole life has been like a moving river
then. Okay.
where I have moved slowly or rapidly and winding turns and straight areas and so forth, and eventually winding back into the same area that I started. So, my first 25 years, I lived in New York City, in the Bronx, in one of the first housing projects there developed by Metropolitan Life called Parkchester. It was a fun place, a lot of parks and playgrounds and so forth. And my grandmother lived 7 blocks away. And I remember they knocked a building down because the Cross Bronx Expressway was going to be built. And we used to run over to see the progress of that. And the train line that we used going into New York or Manhattan, was the Pelham Bay line. And you may have seen that in the movie Pelham 123, The Taking of Pelham 123.
Right. I remember watching that movie with you.
Yeah, yeah. So the thing I remember most about that time in New York was the World War II.
Okay.
There was food rationing. There was food stamp books where you had to turn in so many coupons. If you had 2 pounds of meat, say, you had to turn in so many numbers of coupons. They gave you so many books according to the number of people in your family. And it was kind of a difficult time. I remember victory gardens, and I remember people buying war bonds. One of the things that we had, every child was given this who was in school, was a tag that we had to wear, a tag that we had to wear, and on it had our name, our birth date, a code number, and then New York City, and I'm sure the code was for the Bronx.
Like a
So,
zip code.
no, it didn't have zip code. It's before the days of zip codes.
I'm saying like a zip code.
Yeah, well, it was an identification
Hmm.
number for New York City. We had to wear these every day, all day for years. So that was that. I remember the sadness in the country when Franklin Delano Roosevelt died. And I remember when I was in college that Eleanor Roosevelt came to our school and gave us a speech. But before we moved, at that point I was married, before we moved out of Parkchester and had our apartment, came out of the building one day and there was Nelson Rockefeller.
Oh.
He was looking to run for governor of New York State. And he came out and he greeted everybody, shook hands with everybody. So that was my first experience with politics. So that was my years in New York.
So where else have you lived?
I lived in Westwood, New Jersey for 5 years, Salem, New Hampshire for 5 years, or 2 years rather, Wayne, New Jersey for 8 years, West Bloomfield, Michigan for 3 years, and Simsbury, Connecticut for 4 years.
And just to clarify, the 8 years includes some of your retirement, correct?
No, no, that was well before my retirement.
Okay, so you lived here years
Eight
ago as well.
years ago, before there was Willowbrook, it was my first experience with a flood area. And I have to say, in New Salem, New Hampshire, was another experience with politics. A neighbor invited us over one time, said, "Come for a meet and greet, meet Richard Nixon."
Richard Nixon.
He was running for the president of
Oh,
the United States. So that was one thing there. But back
back to Wayne.
to Wayne. Um, my life here was quieter for a while. When the highlights was being able with the church choir to sing at Carnegie Hall
Yeah,
and Lincoln Center. That was fun. But then again, my husband's job changed after knowing all the machinery to use in the corrugated industry to make a box, a corrugated box. He now decided to become a salesman. So he was going to sell all this machinery.
Okay.
And that really took us on a winding road round and round. We're in Holland and Denmark and Switzerland and Austria. Um, Beautiful scenery, tulips and windmills in Holland and lake in Denmark, Switzerland, the mountains in Austria. Think of Sound of Music
Oh yeah.
with Julie Andrews. The hills are alive. Well, that's true. It was very, very pleasant. So that was kind of the end of our travels. And since then, it's been pretty quiet here.
Well,
I haven't traveled very much.
thank you for sharing.